Just a group of ordinary people learning to follow Jesus in our own day. Say, when you go to the doctor's office and they take your temperature, you usually don't want to be too hot and you don't want to be too cold. You want to be kind of in that middle normal range. But today we're going to learn that being in the middle range, being kind of lukewarm, spiritually speaking, is not a good sign. Join us in just a few minutes as we talk more about what it means to be a lukewarm church and how we can avoid that diagnosis. Whenever you go to the doctor's office, one of the first things they're going to do is they will check your temperature. And that is because they know that your temperature can be a measure of things that are more serious that are going on inside of you. They've got temperatures that the thermometers they'll stick in your ear. They've got the ones they shine on your forehead, the ones that goes in your mouth. Of course, there's thermometers that go other places too. I always just hope that the nurse is reaching for the right one when the time comes. But the point is, you stick it in your mouth, you press the little button, beep, 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 and you look and you see, and you're going to get one of three readings. Either your temperature's too high, you've got a fever, it's too hot, or your temperature's too low. I haven't seen that very much, but hypothermia, I guess. It's too cold, or you get it just right, beep, beep, beep. Yes, that 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit or whatever it is that lets you know you're in that normal range. Well, today we are learning that actually you have a spiritual temperature as well. I mean, did you know that? And churches as well have a spiritual temperature. The story is going to be taken today from this letter that Jesus writes to a church in Laodicea. It's in chapter 3 of the book of Revelation. Ali just read it for us. And what we're going to discover there is Jesus does like a little spiritual checkup on that church. And guess what? He does not like what he sees. The temperature comes back and the results are not great. We are nearing the end of this teaching series. We've been at all fall now. Oh, it's beeping. All fall now, where we've been looking at these ancient letters that were written to churches in Asia Minor like 2,000 years ago. And although these letters were penned by the Apostle John, they were really written by Jesus himself. And today we come to a letter that is written to a church in the city of Laodicea, which is kind of right in the middle of what would be present-day Turkey today. And in this letter, Jesus sits them down, if you will, for a doctor's appointment. And like a lot of doctor's visits, we don't really want to do it. It's kind of uncomfortable, but it's really necessary. And so all I want to do today is let us step into that exam room with this church and see what we can learn. And I really do mean that. I want you not to think of this as an intellectual exercise, as in, what was Jesus saying about this church 2,000 years ago? I want us to say, what does this mean for me? And is the spiritual condition that Jesus is about to diagnose true of me? Is it true of our church? I would say that of all the letters we've gone through so far, this week when I was preparing this message, I think this is one of the most challenging and probably one of the ones that we need to hear the very most, given who we are and where we are in time. So let's go into the office. Let's go into the checkup, and I've even given you some notes to follow along. The doctor will see you now, and let's see what we can learn. Let's begin with the patient. Okay, when this church, Laodicea, goes into the office and the thermometer is stuck in, the reading comes back. The reading comes back saying they are neither hot nor cold. And now normally we would say, that sounds pretty good, right? No fever, no hypothermia, whatever. But spiritually, this is where you do not want to be. This is the danger zone, right? Spiritually speaking, a church that is neither hot nor cold is a lukewarm church that is filled with half-hearted Christians. So the church isn't up here where they're like red hot passion. They're also not down here where they're paralyzed and frigid. They are somewhere in that mushy middle area.
The Bible, actually throughout the Bible, describes what you could say are three different temperatures that someone could have spiritually speaking. The first is someone could be very spiritually hot. You might remember the story where some of Jesus' disciples were walking along the road to Emmaus, and Jesus, the risen Jesus, appeared and walked with them for a while, and he spoke with them, and he opened the scriptures to them, and afterwards they said, "Oh my gosh, were not our hearts burning within us when he walked with us and talked with us and opened the scriptures to us?" That is a hot spirituality, okay? Their hearts were burning. On the other hand, Jesus said that there will come a day, and there may come days, when the love of God, the love of most, will grow cold. A cold heart is a calloused heart. It's an unresponsive heart. It's a heart that says, I don't care about God. I don't care much really about anything. I don't need God. Now, thankfully, even a cold heart, Jesus can thaw out the coldest heart. He does it all the time. Some of you know that very well. But this is the danger zone. The lukewarm heart. That is way, way harder. Jesus says, I wish you were one or the other. I wish you were either cold. I can deal with that. Or, of course, I wish you were hot. But this church, as Megan said, they were half in and they were half out, right? They were still singing all the songs, but the passion was gone. They were still sitting there in the pews, but the fire had gone out. It's kind of like coffee. I love really, really hot coffee. If you want the hottest coffee in town, go down to Camaria, just down the street. They serve wicked hot coffee. And I love iced coffee, cold iced coffee. The worst kind of coffee is like room temperature coffee. Coffee that you like find in the microwave that you're like, oh shoot, I put that in there 3 hours ago. That is the worst kind of coffee. It is not good. Spiritually speaking, Jesus wants us to be hot. Now, he doesn't say to Laodicea, I want you to be hot. No, he uses a different word. He says, I want you to be earnest. Now, earnest doesn't sound like a very hot word, but actually it really, really is. Because the Greek word for earnestness is zealous, right? I want you to be zealous. And that's where we get our word jealous as well. What does it mean to be jealous? To be jealous means you have set your love so intensely on someone that you like overflow in energy and you kind of explode toward that person. When we're like loving ourselves, then jealousy is a very toxic thing. But when we set our love on God, then jealousy and zeal means we will do whatever we can, whatever we're able to do to lift up his name and to praise him for who he is. And when people first meet Jesus, so often that is exactly how they are. They are on fire. They can't get enough of him. They talk about him to whoever will listen, right? They carry their Bibles with them wherever they go. They may even pray before meals in restaurants when people can see. They raise their hands in church when they're singing songs, and that might make you a little uncomfortable. But come on, guys. Tonight, the Rogers Center is going to be filled with Blue Jay fanatics. All of Canada has set their heart on this team. They're going to jump, and they're going to scream, and they're going to paint their faces blue, and they will not care what anyone thinks. They're not worried about being called a fanatic. But you bring that kind of attitude into a church, they'll call it a cult. Now, I am not suggesting that you come to church like this, but God does want us to be wholly devoted and single-hearted and joyfully jealous of him. And maybe if you're honest, you say, that did describe me once. But I don't really know what happened. I kind of just cooled off. I'm not cold, but I've just come to this place of kind of lukewarmness. It is a serious condition. Very serious. And I'm not joking around. Jesus isn't joking around. Jesus doesn't just say, I'm really angry with you because you're lukewarm. No, he says, you make me sick. He says, you make me nauseous. I want to throw up when I think about you. I want to hurl, right? I am about to spit you out of my mouth. Now, gosh, why is he reacting so strongly to a little lukewarmness? It's because he knows the underlying pathology. He knows what's going on beneath the temperature reading, right? If you go to a doctor, they'll take your temperature, but that just tells them something's wrong. Then the doctor's going to go underneath and see what the real disease is, what is causing it. And yeah, Laodicea, beep, 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 you've got a temperature. But Jesus says, let me tell you what the real problem is. You say, I'm rich, I've acquired wealth, and I don't need a thing. That, in a nutshell, is the problem with Laodicea. That's the condition. What we have here is an advanced case of affluence and chronic self-sufficiency. Laodicea prided itself on three things, right? First, their wealth. Laodicea was loaded. It was a very wealthy banking city. It was so wealthy that actually in the year AD 60, an earthquake flattened the place. And Rome offered financial support, disaster relief to help them rebuild. And they said, no, we got it. We got it. Thanks, but no thanks. We can look after this ourselves. They were rolling in it in Laodicea. Second, Laodicea was very famous for fashion. A lot of clothes and textiles were made in Laodicea with this beautiful, really beautiful black wool. I guess there were a lot of black sheep around there. It was this beautiful, like silky wool that people really desired. They were really well dressed. They were good-looking people. And thirdly, Laodicea was also a medical center. One of the main products they exported around the world was called Phrygian powder. And it was a medicine used to heal all sorts of eye ailments. You got this little pill, you crush it up, you put it in the water, you put it on your eyes, and all around the world they shipped this stuff, Phrygian powder. But here is the problem. When you've got everything, you don't need God very much. They were so wealthy and healthy. And we don't want to hear this, and I don't want to hear this. I didn't want to hear this week, but I think Jesus is making a direct link between being accomplished and smart and successful and wealthy and being lukewarm in your faith. You still believe in God, yeah. You still come to church, but the heat is not there. You see that song that we just sang? Rachel sang this beautiful song, right? Did you hear that line? You're never gonna let me down, right? Now, if you don't have much, when you sing those words, they mean something. Oh, you're never gonna let me down, God. But they sound a lot different. And we sing them a lot differently when we're rich and when we're comfortable and when we're successful. Because even if God did let us down, we'd be all right. It's a good song. Nothing against the song, but you can sing it. You can sing any song in a lukewarm way, especially when you're so self-sufficient. So that is why I think this letter is so important to us. We're living in Laodicea, right? North America, the GTA for sure, right? And I'm not saying that every single person here is rolling in it like Laodicea, but we've got enough health care to make life comfortable. We've got RSPs to keep us secure. We've got enough clothes. We usually look pretty good. We've got enough Netflix to keep us distracted. Jesus is saying those comforts are a curse when they cool down your spiritual temperature, making you, spiritually speaking, poor and blind and naked. These were rich people, specialized in eye ointments, and were well clothed. You're poor, you're blind, and you're naked. In 2019, a pastor and author by the name of Francis Chan, maybe some of you have heard of him. I know our youth group is using one of his resources on Friday nights. He gave an interview, and the interview was titled, "Why I Quit My Megachurch and Started Again." He had built one of the largest churches in California. He's a speaker, he's an author, he's a pastor, but he began to feel uneasy because it started out red hot. But then it became lukewarm, and he says at some point it felt like they were just playing church. And so he left. He just had to get away. And he went to Asia, where he met with persecuted Christians, underground Christians who risked imprisonment for their faith in Jesus. And they were red hot, spiritually speaking. And in the interview, he says this. He says, one of the worst things that can happen is for life to be easy and comfortable, to where you don't give a thought for things that really matter. And I believe it's Satan's plan to keep us focused on the things of this world and the things that you can see, whereas Scripture tells us to focus on the things that are unseen. And I believe that if Christians from other parts of the world were to come and visit the North American church, or I dare say maybe even visit our church, they would be struck by our lukewarmness. They would say, why don't you guys pray more? Right? Or why do you spend so much of what you make on yourselves? Or why are you so afraid to talk about Jesus outside of this place? That's Laodicea. Friends, that's me. Maybe that's you too. When life gets easy, our faith gets sleepy. So what do we do about that? Well, what is Jesus, the great physician Jesus, going to prescribe for this condition of self-sufficiency? Well, that's where we're going to go next, to the prescription. And this is what Jesus says. He looks at their condition. He actually goes to the medicine cabinet and says, I have just the thing. I have just the thing to cure you, but you're going to have to get that cure from me. You can't do this. You're going to have to take it from me. And he says, I counsel you. Now notice, everything he says has got to come from him. I counsel you to buy from me gold, white clothes from me to wear, and buy from me a salve to put on your eyes. You cannot heal yourself. It's not like the earthquake. You're not going to be able to rebuild. You're not going to be able to sort this out on your own. You can't even go to a pharmacy and buy this kind of cure. You have to come to the end of your own self-sufficiency, and you've got to come to me. That is what we call grace. This whole prescription is about receiving and not achieving. Man, we always want to achieve it. We always want to earn and own the good things that happen in our life, and even our own transformation. We want to say, that was me, that one's on me. But receiving God's grace, not achieving worldly success, is what Jesus is on about. He says, doesn't say, Laodicea, pull yourselves together, you can do it. He says, no, come to me. I am the only one who can give you what you lack. The first prescription is buy from me gold, refined in the fire. I mean, gosh, Laodicea's banks were full, but Jesus says, I want you to invest in me. Many of us, we've diversified our investments, followed good financial advice throughout all our lives. But Jesus says, invest in me. Because every other currency, a success or comfort or applause or whatever it is, it will eventually collapse, especially if it's crypto. But it's not just gold. It's gold refined in a fire. Now, throughout the Bible, whenever it speaks about being refined in a fire, I hate to tell you this, but it usually means suffering, right? Glowing hot faith is often born out of trial and testing. You know, Tim Keller once said that people who live incredibly charmed lives are almost all lukewarm. Those are his words, not mine. That's tough, but if that's true, then to get out of lukewarmness into a real transformed life, you're probably going to have to go through some tough times with Jesus walking along your side. Red hot spirituality is purified in suffering. Those are hard words. Second prescription, Jesus says, is buy from me white clothes to wear so that you can cover your shameful nakedness. Now remember, Laodicea, famous for its black textiles, black clothing. Jesus says, oh, those clothes, they may cover your body, but spiritually, you're naked, and you need my clothes to cover you. Now, if you read a little further in the book of Revelation, you will see that these white garments represent righteousness. They represent a good life, good standing before God. We spend so much of our time focusing on our outward image and appearance and resume and reputation. But the only outfit that matters, the only outfit of any significance, is the one that Jesus gives us. Jesus, I don't care how good you look. You need my clothes. A righteous life only comes from me. Let me be your garment, Jesus says. I don't know about you, but I have a pretty hard time keeping my clothes white, keeping my life holy, being righteous. So Jesus says it's okay. Put my life on, my righteousness. Let me cover your shame and your guilt and your sin. The third prescription Jesus offers is his own eye salve to help them see. Laodicea's medical products could help everyone else's see, but it left the church blind to what really mattered. And I mean, we all are wearing some kind of cultural glasses or cultural lenses through which we see, oh, this is what success looks like, or this is what prosperity looks like, or this is what, the good life looks like. But Jesus offers eye medicine that truly restores our vision, enabling us to see what real riches are and what real success is and where real healing comes from. Guys, every one of these prescriptions that Jesus is offering comes from him. Jesus says, come to me. I'll give you what money can't buy, what your success can't secure. But of course, every good prescription only works if you trust the physician and if you let him do his work. And that's exactly where Jesus goes next. He says, behold, I stand at the door and knock. It's so weird. Jesus has just delivered the hardest diagnosis. You make me sick. And yet here he is knocking on the door saying, let me in. It's like, on the one hand, you make me sick. But then he says, I love you. I love you. That is the gospel, people. The great physician Jesus, he doesn't reject his lukewarm church. He pursues it. He doesn't abandon you or me, the patient. He makes a house call. You don't want to come to my clinic? Fine. I will come to you. And the scariest part about this is, I think, that, remember, this is written to a church, right? And Jesus is on the outside of the church. Right? The person who should be at the center of what is going on there is standing on the doorstep. That can happen to a church. It can happen to any church. It can happen to our church. Whenever we become too self-sufficient and too confident in our own abilities, if we can sing all the songs and we can read all the words and forget his presence in our midst. Jesus, the great physician, is waiting to be invited in. And it's not just about a church, it's about you too. If anyone, he says, hears my voice. Are you one of those self-sufficient people? Are you one of those people Jesus is speaking to? If so, the cure is to open the door and let Jesus back into your life, and not just for a quick house call. When it says, I want to come in, Jesus says, I want to come into your house, I want to sit down and I want to eat with you. In ancient times, all of those things, sharing a meal, sharing your house, were very intimate things that you only did out of a deep and ongoing friendship. So when you let Jesus back into your life and into your decisions and into your relationships and into your schooling and into your work, then and then only will your spiritual temperature begin to rise again. And so then, finally, we come to the prognosis. What is the prognosis? Is there any hope for the patient? What is the prognosis for those who willingly open the door to Jesus? Jesus says, oh gosh, there's an amazing prognosis. To the one who is victorious, I will give the right to sit with me on my throne, just as I was victorious and I sat down on my Father's throne. No doctor in history has ever told a patient, you're dying, But when I'm done, you'll rule the world with me. Right? No doctor, no patient has ever gone from being in the sick bed to being on the throne. But only Jesus makes that kind of promise. Now, obviously, we would say, yeah, Jesus reigns. Jesus died, and he rose again on the third day, and he ascended into heaven. So obviously, yes, every crown, every authority, every throne belongs to Jesus. He deserves to sit there, but here's the miracle. You know what he says to this lukewarm church? You know what he says to this half-hearted, self-satisfied church? He looks at you, and he looks at me, and he says, you know what, though? If you open the door to me, I will open heaven to you, and you will reign with me. That is one heck of a prognosis. The prognosis is this: total recovery for the patient and eternal reign with the Son of God. And you didn't earn any of it. The only reason we can wear white clothes is because he was stripped naked on the cross. And the only reason that we can be rich is because he was made poor. Right? The only reason the patient lives is because the physician died. That is the gospel. And Jesus wrote that prescription in his own blood. Our love for him might be lukewarm, but obviously his love for us is not. He is jealous for you. He loves you. He's willing to die for you. He has given himself so utterly to us. So then how can we not give ourselves completely back to him? How can we be half-hearted? How can we be lukewarm? So again, I'll end where I began. What's your temperature this morning? What does the thermometer say? Not the one in your mouth, but the one in your heart. Are you hot? Are you burning with love for Jesus? Are you cold? Are you like distant and hard-hearted? Or are you lukewarm? Just comfortable, and a bit distracted these days. The good news is, whatever your temperature, the great physician is here. Even now, he is here, knocking at your door, calling you, and still offering that cure that all of us need. So open the door and let him in. Thanks be to God. Amen.